Namaskar. Today we will continue the discussion that we had last time on the Vedas. But I was thinking of making another video. I did not do so because I felt a bit incomplete. I felt if I don't take you forward in this journey into the Vedas, there won't be justice. Because I always keep thinking about it in this way that one can devote a lifetime in order to uncover the knowledge hidden in the Vedas. And I think even then it will be insufficient. You will realize after watching this video that this is a very unique content. Again, not very superficial, but I have tried my best to keep it simple because one has to understand that whatever we are discussing today, in English maybe, is coming from a Vedic Sanskrit language. We have to break it down to a broader audience so that they can understand the philosophy hidden behind the Indian culture, and that also one of the oldest philosophy to which we have not much of an idea in terms of the origin. I would highly recommend you to go and watch the previous video on an easy understanding of Veda. That will make your life much easier to appreciate or digest this particular video. And before we move further into the topic, I would highly recommend you to let me know if you would like specific episodes on different languages, such as Bengali, for instance. If you are interested in a specific topic, do let me know. Drop us an email. Our email address is in the description box. I am looking forward to it. And based on your interest, we can bring up something maybe in the future. So let's go into the Vedas and see what we have today for you. So Vedas talk about the fundamental concept of evolution. And by evolution, I mean it talks about physical evolution and also spiritual evolution. And it is the same evolution I'm talking about that India has figured out centuries ago prior to Charles Darwin or the Darwinian evolution. Bear in mind, the Darwinian evolution is mostly focused on physical evolution, whereas spiritual evolution talks about the spiritual upliftment, which is somehow not covered in the Darwinian evolution. So that is the beauty of the Vedas. Now, when we understand the aspect of spiritual and physical evolution, we will realize that after reading the Vedas, it is still talking about some of the fundamental basic units of life so that we can work out the complications of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Vedas talk about the true light of knowledge. It's one of the first compiled resource that we had. It was compiled by Vyasa, and from that many other things evolved. And bear in mind, we can close our eyes and trust this knowledge because the knowledge or the wisdom of the Vedas is coming from the Devas. It is the word of the gods, it is the word of the divine captured by the realized beings or the rishis who heard it and assembled it and eventually passed it over generations. That's the idea we even talked about on our previous video. Vedas talk about the cosmos. If you are new to the Vedas, if you go and read about it, you will see that your understanding somehow is a function of whose interpretation are you following. So Vedas have been, there are many commentaries written on the Vedas by different people over different time period. This confusion even prevails today that whose version should I read? And there are some standard version of Vedas that has been written by scholars, Sanskrit scholars, and scholars of Indo-European languages. And none of them are really bad, to be honest. But again, it depends on whom you are picking and how you are reading it. And this is a question that it might have come to you, that how should I read the Vedas? To make it really simple, it is far more beneficial if you are reading the Upanishads, because the Upanishads are the end of the Veda. They come towards the end of the Veda. They are much more simpler and philosophical explanations of the Vedic Suktas. If you read the Upanishads and then trace back to the Vedas, your life will be much easier. As I said, there is no set rules to read the Vedas in terms of the order. You might be starting your life with Atharva Ved and then going back to Rig Ved, doesn't really matter. For the Vedas, no one has specifically mentioned that there has to be a sequence. Although if we go into the literature down the road and talk about the tantras, the agamas, the puranas, etc., sometimes there will be a suggested sequence, but for Vedas there is no such sequence. Whose Ved interpretation should I read? A language. So first search for any commentary or translation or transliteration in your language, because Vedas have been translated into innumerable number of languages, in Spanish, in German, in French, of course in English, even in various Indian languages. So I would say go for it. I will give you some name that you can read about, very popular interpretations and commentaries on Veda. You can read the interpretations of Veda by Max Muller, that's really very popular. You can read some of the English commentaries on the Veda by Zimmerman or Oldenburg. These are very old, at the same time can be useful. And also you can read some of the commentaries on the Vedas by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, which is wonderful, I should say. That's something you can do. You can read the commentaries on the Veda, on some aspects of the Veda by Swami Vivekananda. So bear in mind, you will notice that a lot of them has sometimes not talked about the entire Veda, but has picked up a certain part of the Veda. Nonetheless, you will get the knowledge you want. So read about this mixed set of scholars that I have given you, but this is a very tiny piece of slice that I have shared with you. There are innumerable references to read or understand Veda. And if you know about a reference that has helped you to understand the Veda in a simplistic language, doesn't matter what language it is, do let us know in the comments, because by that means many other people who wants to read the Veda will get it as a resource or a reference. Talking about a Bengali version of understanding Ved, I would definitely like to mention a book to you which is also wonderful, and I would highly recommend it. It's actually very popular amongst the people who are interested in studying philosophy, Veda, etc. So I would like to mention it from my notes. That is also another reference that you can read about. And the name of the book is Beder Porichoy by Dr. Jogiraj Bosu. One of the older and a very popular set of Vedic commentaries was written and referred by many scholars is by Shayan or Shayanacharya. This is very popular indeed. But over years, people have said that Shayanacharya has talked more about the ritualistic part of the Veda. Even today, you go to a community and talk to people about Ved, they will say that Ved is all about rituals and sacrifices. This is not wrong, but this is also not correct. Vedas has a very strong philosophical aspect into it. It is not just about ritualistic aspect of uh, Sanatana Dharma or Hindu Dharma. So one has to understand that. So that's why I would say read as many commentaries as you can, because this is a wonderful exercise for life and it's never ending. Before moving on, I would like to mention that definitely, talking about the Vedas, you must read one of the best commentary on the Vedas in English is The Secret of the Veda by Sri Aurobindo. This is one of the best Vedic commentary in terms of the current times we are living in, and it also gives you a picture of what things mean in Sanskrit, in Vedic Sanskrit, and how it translates into English, and what are the interpretations. So you should read about it. Because it is Sri Aurobindo's work, I would suggest you to read the commentaries I suggested earlier first, read Sri Aurobindo later, and read it very slowly. Otherwise, most of you will not be able to digest it, because it's written in complex English, an English that we do not speak today. going forward, do we see the Vedas? In other words, I talk to you about Vedic knowledge and Vedic studies. It's about sacrifices in India. Vedas are pervasive in our life. Wherever we look, if we are cautious, we see Vedic rituals are being performed. Even though it has undergone modifications, changes, things have been shortened or lengthened, doesn't matter. We see a glimpse of Vedic rituals in many, many Indian occasions. To name a few, marriage or Vivah ceremony, you see that. Shraddh ceremony, if you look into most of the yajnas in Hinduism, you will see they perform Vedic rituals. If you look into rituals like Tarpan, Pitri Tarpan, you see Vedic rituals being performed. Many others, such as, if you buy a new house, you will see people are doing a house warming ritual or a Griha Pravesh. There also Vedic rituals are performed. You will also notice that Vedic rituals are being performed if you go to any worshipping place or any temple. In few days we will be having the Navratri or Durga Puja celebration. There also there is a significance of Vedic ritual where a very important role is played by the fire or the Agni. And moving forward, just to cite a fundamental example that it's not new to us, it's very, very fundamental and it's there in the Ved, the significance of Agni. That's why you might have noticed it in the thumbnail that Agni doesn't completely translate into fire, because these are words which are essentially in Vedic Sanskrit. That's almost elusive today. The problem is when we translate the words into English, because of the limitation of the English language, some of the meanings are either destroyed or they get vanished. And there where the problem starts coming in. For example, if you are reading a Vedic commentary completely in English without having a glimpse of the Sanskrit verses or the glossary, you will see that you are learning it, you are understanding it, but you are only understanding a half-baked story. To fully realize the Ved, it is essential to have a basic understanding of the Vedic Sanskrit or Sanskrit language, and then you basically translate or transliterate it into your favorite language. So, going forward, I'll give you an example that will give you much more clarity into the fact that why certain words mean a lot more than how we perceive it today. For example, Agni is not just fire. I kept saying that. We will look into one specific example from the Ved. It is interesting to note that in Rig Veda, the first mandala, the first sukta, and the first sloka is dedicated to Agni or fire. So the first sukta describes a major property of Agni. But before I go into the details, I want to read out the sloka so that you have an understanding of how it sounds. Om Agni Mile Purohitam Yagyasya Deva Mritvijam Hotarang Ratnadhatamam. This is the first slok, first sukta in the first mandala of Rig Veda. In simplest terms, this talks about the divine nature of Agni. Now, what is Agni? Why it's important to talk about it? Agni carries the word called Ag. It has a Sanskrit root called Aga, means upward movement. And when I say upward movement, it's not just about the directional upward movement, but it's also a movement towards the world which is above us. You can imagine that we are the mankind and above us is the divine land. Very interestingly, much later in Mundaka Upanishad, people have compared the flames of Agni to the vibrance of Makali, which is also timeless, which is also the pure consciousness. So think about the importance of fire in the Vedas and how it kept coming along. You talk about Jyotish Shastra, there is sun. So We always look into the zodiac, the movement of the planets, and also there is a big reference made to the sun. In Jyotish Shastra, sun is always compared to or designated as the soul. So sun is the soul and moon is the chitta or manas. Now in the shlok that I just read from Rig Veda, sun has been compared to whom? A purohit. And you will be thinking that purohit is a priest. Yes, that's right. But there's much more to it. Same as Agni. Much more to it in the word purohit. Going back into my notes, if you really break down the word purohit, the word pura means someone at the front, and the word he means someone who is stable or standing or placed. Let's put it that way. So Agni, when we are saying Agni mile purohitam, it means that in this case the sun is acting like a gatekeeper. Sun is acting like a security guard between the man or the world of mankind and the world of the divine. What are we describing actually? We are describing the yajna. So in this slok, we also have a reference to yajna. So yajna. So yajna is, it has a complicated meaning as well, but to make it simple, I'll just keep it to sacrifice, although it does not completely mean sacrifice as we say in English. So this whole slok forms a vicious cycle of yajna. So when you do yajna in your home next time, pay attention to it. What is happening here? We are the man, we are putting our efforts and doing the yajna. And to do the yajna, to pass the message, we need a gatekeeper. We don't have the ability to directly go to the world of the gods or the higher world or the higher lok. That's why we are taking help of the purohita. We light up the Agni, the fire, which is the ultimate purohita, which is the gatekeeper or the security guard, to communicate with the divine and to tell the divine what you are seeking in that yajna. Because yajna, what you are looking for in the fire ceremony, it varies between different rituals. It could be a happy ritual, it could be an offering to some god, it could be an offering to ancestor. So if you're doing a yajna, it has a purpose. The sun, the purohita, conveys your purpose to the divine. When this is done, what is happening? The divine showers you, the man, with the grace. This grace is often referred to as soma, is the divine grace or the utmost bliss that we experience. It's a kind of the bliss that you experience when you go to a temple or when you come out of meditation. Once that is done, your consciousness is expanding. You are getting fulfilled. So this is a cycle. I'll quickly repeat it. So I am doing the yajna as a man or a woman, and to do that, we have a purohit. We light up the fire pit or the fire. The Agni is acting as the purohit or the gatekeeper between me and the gods in the higher world, the divine. The divine is listening to the wishes and fulfilling it by showering the grace or the soma. And that is coming to us as a spiritual blessing. You can say it's coming to us as a blessing, as an ashirvad, and that is elevating my consciousness. And it is giving me a spiritual ascendance into this material world. So in short, all good things are happening when you are performing a yajna, because when we perform a yajna, there is a tremendous spiritual fulfillment. Maybe I'll talk about it on a different day. What is interesting is this man-divine communication, this two-way traffic is continuously happening when we are lighting up the fire to communicate. And that is, if done well, maintains the balance of the cosmos or the rhythm. You will see that sometimes people say, in many practices, particularly Hindu practices, when you are doing a sankalpa, you will notice that it is said that when you are doing a sankalpa, always light up a diya, light up a lamp. oil lamp or a ghee lamp, whatever you want. The whole idea is the same. That is the role of sun or Ravi or Agni in the Veda in the simplest terms. Sun is also regarded in the Vedas as the son of Aditi. And I will stop here, but I want to just share this fact with you that India has put woman or the divine feminine consciousness at a much higher pedestal. When we say that things are going bad, the world has changed, there is patriarchy and whatnot, it has happened because we actually created a lot of chaos and problems. But if you really go back to the roots in the Vedas, the men and the women had equal pedestal. The names like Uma, Ila, Saraswati, Aditi are all coming from the Vedic lores. Reading the Vedas is almost or same as mantra sadhana, which transforms our instabilities into a stable wisdom. So we become more stable. What specifically does Veda confers to us? To do that, you have to understand the Vedas and understand the shlokas word by word to find a more divergent meaning, which we tried to delve into today. Today, we only understood that Agni is not just fire. The Vedic culture understood the potential and worshipped the sun. You talk about life on earth, which is dependent on oxygen, you need sun for that. The plants are able to photosynthesize in presence of sun. Many chemical reactions in the plants are happening because of the presence of sun. Solar power stations are also operational because of the sun. Many diseases heal in the presence of a specific UV ray derived from the sun. The Vedic gurus have understood the importance of Agni way before. So, what do we learn from all this discussion today on the Vedas? So, I would like to leave you with three key points. Number one, Vedas tell us that there is a superior world above us, which belongs to Shiva, Shakti, Christ, or someone formless, doesn't matter. There is a higher world, divine world above us. Number two, man has to understand and realize this superior world, the world above us. And lastly, number three, our life on this earth is a mix of good and bad things. There are, crimes, thefts, robbery, backbiting, jealousy, inferiority complex, depression, and whatnot. Our job is to cast all this away and live with positivity in order to realize the higher world. That is a primary duty of a man born on this earth. And if everyone starts doing it, the world by default becomes a wonderful place to live in. This is the fundamental take home message from the Ved. So read the Vedas and let me know in your comments how you felt about it. And if you want to listen to more videos on specific aspects of Indian spiritual wisdom, do let me know. Do send us an email. Om Namo Adhyaya.